Hey and welcome back to my channel. The title of this video may or may not have lured you into watching it, and if it did, don't for a second think that this video is in any way a get rich quick scheme. If you want one of those, head over to TikTok and there's plenty of creators that can lead you astray over there. This video, however, is the slow and steady approach. The approach that is methodical and minimises risk as much as it possibly can. It's the method that I've been using and will continue to use to reach that £1 million net worth mark. Meaning all the assets you have in total are worth at least £1 million. So before we get started though, as always, please remember to hit the like button, and if you get any value from my content whatsoever, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be notified when I release future videos. So, full disclosure, I am not a millionaire. So why then would I be talking about the process of becoming one if I'm not one? Well, that is a valid question and you should definitely be asking it. And the best answer that I can give you is that I've transformed my financial situation with the steps that I'm going to outline in this video. I have gone from struggling with consumer debt, literally living payday to payday and feeling anxious all the time about money and the lack of it. So I armed myself with financial knowledge and education and applied it. And I'm now in a position whereby I'm growing my wealth and I'm on the trajectory to be a millionaire. So I've created an environment with my finances so that my net worth can and will only go one way, and that's up. So the reason I wanted to give some context to this video is that you may currently be in a similar position to what I was a couple of years ago. A position whereby you feel anxious, worried and clueless perhaps about how to get your finances in order. Potentially you have the feeling that you can and will never be wealthy. I hope this video gives you a beacon of light, some reassurance that with applied knowledge you can take ownership of your finances and find yourself in a position that you didn't think was possible in a shorter time frame than you might think. So that being said, I'm not a financial advisor and this video is not meant to be in any way specific financial advice for you. If you do need specific advice, please speak to a trained financial professional. Okay, so let's take a look at the 3 steps. Step 1, and firstly, you're going to need to take a firm grasp of your finances by creating a budget. The only way you can do this is by being completely honest with yourself and anyone else in your house that shares a financial responsibility. So I will create another video about approaching finances with a partner, but for the purpose of this video, remember that everybody needs to be on the same financial page. So I know before I began learning about money, I buried my hand in the sand about money coming in and money going out. And sadly, this is just the norm in the UK. We all like to think that we know our budget, but the average person just doesn't. We have to face our previous mistakes and define exactly where we are today in order to improve our situation in the future. Now, the style of budgeting that I use and recommend is called zero-based budgeting. So this style of budgeting ensures that you create a monthly financial plan whereby your final balance every month gets to 0. So practically this means that going through recent bank statements, I would say probably going back 6 months, and making sure you are aware of all of your outgoings. This means identifying where every single penny was spent. You're going to have to be brutally honest. Pretending you didn't spend that £100 on coffee because you think when you're on a budget you won't do it anymore isn't going to make your situation any better. It really and truly is better to know what the damage is so you can plan and improve for the future. So next, you're going to need to know all of your income. Now this is everything including your salary or wage, any money from side hustles or any benefits that you may receive such as child benefit. This is literally any money that comes in to your account. So now you know the 2 numbers that are needed, you're going to need to subtract your outgoings from your income and hopefully it's in the positive. If it is in the negative, don't worry, this is where the next step can help. But you have to confront the problem and the reasons why you aren't succeeding with money. So the goal here is to lower your outgoings as much as possible, getting rid of subscriptions that you convince yourself you would use, but you don't. Lower your TV package, find a cheaper gym, do your food shop at Aldi or Lidl. There's so many things that you can do to lower your outgoings, you just need to be intentional. So that being said, there's only so much you can do to lower your outgoings before the quality of life drops significantly. That's where you're going to need to improve your income. So this can be done in a few ways, by creating a side hustle, selling stuff on eBay or Etsy, or looking to get a promotion at work, or potentially starting your own business. So I used to have a mental block when it came to earning more money than my main job paid. So trust me, I understand that there is a glass ceiling there. Just trust me, Keep working on multiple revenue streams and your financial position will improve greatly. I talk more about the topic of budgeting in a previous video, so if you want to go back and take a look, follow the link above to watch. The important thing here, and what is often quoted as the golden rule of finance, is you need to spend less than you earn. Seems obvious, but many people don't do it. Okay, step 2, you need to pay off your debt. And this applies to any debt other than your mortgage. Having consumer debt is something that people in the West have become so accustomed to that when I talk to people about not wanting to have any, I'm the weird one. But guess what? Being weird is how you will become a millionaire. The old saying goes, if you continue to do what you've always been doing, you're going to continue to get what you've always got. Doing something radical and different will give you a radical and different result. The truth is, I understand the logic of leveraging debt and why people want to do it. But the fact is that comes with a lot of risk. And this video is about the 3 steps that are most likely to get you to £1 million net worth by minimising the risk as much as possible. So debt is not only a physical problem, it's an emotional one too. Not only does it steal money from your monthly income, it also prevents you from doing things with it. It weighs you down and causes many issues in your life. Trust me, I know. Having been in debt and feeling like there's no escape, I know firsthand how detrimental it can be. But on the flip side, I also know that it's possible to get out. And rather than having money going towards car finance, credit card companies, you can get that money, redirect it, and put it towards your future. The method that I advocate when it comes to paying off debt is known as the debt snowball method. Now this is a method that may not mathematically be the best method, meaning you're likely to pay slightly more interest than the opposing method, which is known as the debt avalanche, but in my opinion is the superior one. The debt snowball method is where you list your debts from smallest to largest and pay the minimum on all debts except for the smallest. The smallest debt becomes your target and you pay it off as quickly as you can. Every bit of extra money that comes your way, you throw at this debt. Once that debt is paid off, you move on to the next one on the list, rolling over your minimum payments as you pay them off to create a financial snowball until you pay off the final debt. Now the avalanche method is where you would list your debts from lowest interest rate to the highest. And again, pay minimum payments on the lowest rate, moving the way down through the snowball to the bottom. Now this method mathematically works better. However, imagine your lowest interest rate debt is the biggest one and it might take you more than a year to pay it off. Compare that to paying off your smallest debt first, which might only take a month. Now once you pay off that first debt, you're going to get a dopamine hit and you're going to feel your motivation increase and you're more likely to become debt free. It might sound trivial, but personal finance and paying off debt is way more emotional than it is about knowledge. I find it very interesting when I talk to people about debt. Often, the people who think it's ridiculous to use the debt snowball method are very logical thinkers and numbers driven. Quite often, these very same people often have large debts. And when I point out that if they thought and acted logically all the time when it came to money, surely they wouldn't have a load of debt in the first place, and especially not ones that have high interest rates. So why does this keep happening, you might ask? Well, it's because we as humans are emotional creatures. We're not robots. Our behaviours are what drive us. We want that new car to look fancy, we want that bigger house, and we want to dress nicely. And in the moment of making those purchases, the interest rate on the credit card is at the back of your mind. All this to say, being debt-free will literally free you. It will also give you more cash flow to then move on to the next step, where you're going to be accelerating your progress to becoming wealthy and potentially a millionaire. So once you're out of debt, it's time to change how you do things and not go back into the situation you were before. It means paying off things outright and not using credit cards to fund your lifestyle. You can then redirect some of this money to have a backstop and create an emergency fund that's important to prevent you from using those credit cards ever again, and it's also an emotional buffer as well as a financial one. So I've gone further into depth about this in a previous video as well. So if you follow the card above and you want to find out more information about it, go back and watch that video before you move on. Okay, now on to step 3. So now that you have a zero-based budget and you're debt-free with hopefully a cash buffer as an emergency fund, you're now able to build wealth. And you do that by investing in index funds. You can't build your wealth by leaving your money in a bank account. Inflation eats away your money as the cost of living rises by more than your job is giving you pay rises, as well as the bank interest rates. You will need to outperform inflation, and this means you're going to need to buy assets. Assets include things like property, stocks and shares, bonds, commodities, and there are more, like cryptocurrency. Sure, you might win the lottery if that's your thing, but the chances are pretty slim that's going to happen. So let's focus on a method that mitigates risk as much as possible and maximizes your chances of becoming wealthy over time. And this means investing in index funds. So what are index funds? Well, index funds are collections of stocks and bonds that track a market or sector of a market. Basically, what that means is rather than putting all of your eggs into one basket and investing in one single company that may or may not go bust, you're spreading your money across companies or sectors to minimise the risk. Index funds generally have low management fees and are often considered to be the core of most people's portfolio. Probably the most famous example of an index fund will be the Standard & Poor's 500 or the S&P 500. Index funds are great for the average person because you don't have to read financial papers and be up to date with what's happening at Wall Street to invest in the stock market. John Bogle, the creator of Vanguard, was the pioneer of index funds. He wrote a great book that I recommend you read if you want to learn more about these. It's called The Little Book of Common Sense Investing, and I'll leave a link to that in the description below. So I invest using the Vanguard platform, but it may not be the one that you want to use, so my advice is to do some research and pick the one that you like. But just bear in mind fees, because they can eat away at your pot of money over time. So by using index funds as the main vehicle to grow your money, you can take advantage of compound interest. Now, compound interest is the exponential growth of something over time, and in this case, it's money. So put simply, when your investments grow, the interest or dividends from these that you get also grow. And that adds to the pot, making it bigger. And over time, the pot grows much bigger than it would if it wasn't exponential. And as you can see on the screen, the result is a steep curve that actually does require time. Now, Albert Einstein called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world, and you can see why. And if you want to become a millionaire, you're going to need to grasp this concept. So let's head over to the laptop and take a look at an example of how you can reach the £1 million mark by investing your money in index funds. Okay, so here we are at the laptop, and I want to walk you through a compound interest calculator from the website, thecalculatorsite.com, and I'll put a link to this website in the link below. It's probably the most commonly used that I've seen online calculator, just to illustrate how over time compound interest works, because the algorithm is obviously built into the calculation to show you over time how it works. It's not quite as simple as just putting into a spreadsheet. There's a bit more that you need to know about how over time interest builds upon interest builds upon interest, and this is the quick and easy way of doing it. So I want to show you with some numbers about realistically where you could be in the future if you were consistent with investing. So for the purpose of this, we'll say we've started with absolutely nothing, so initial balance 0, and we'll put an interest rate of 8%. Now obviously interest rates and rate of return when it comes to investing is not guaranteed in any way, shape or form, but we have to choose a number because otherwise we won't be able to work out any calculations or predict in the future potentially what you might get. So from what I would expect from my investments, it's between 5 to 10% in index funds. So I'll go with a nice easy roundish number of 8. And what we'll do with the amount, the monthly amount, I'm going to set as £200. Now, depending on your own situation, obviously that could either seem like a heck of a lot of money, and I know when I first started investing, it definitely was, or you could invest more. Again, we just have to choose a number, so we're going to go with 200. What I would advise, if that does seem like a large amount, starting off small is the best way to get yourself used to the environment of investing and taking that little bit of risk, because I know I certainly felt like it was all gambling to start with. So starting with a little bit of money and getting used to it is the best way to acclimatise to investing. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples and change them and tweak them. What I would advise is use your own numbers. So this was by far the most motivational calculator that I used to work out and convince myself that investing would actually work. It's such a powerful calculator, so please use it. Okay, so let's say we start with £0 and we're going to invest over 10 years. Let's say you started late. Let's say you decided you want to start investing when you're 50 or you want to retire when you're 60. So you start when you're 50 and you can put away £200 a month. Obviously better than not doing it. Let's see where that takes us. If we calculate there, at the end of that, at 8%, what you would get. So the future investment value there would be £36,589.21. So, and as you can see, there's a projection breakdown down there after year 1, 2, 3, 4. And as you can see, it starts off quite low. And then even with 10 years, you can see the numbers start drastically jumping up. As the numbers get slightly bigger, you'll see that compounding has that sort of exponential growth. Now, let's see what happens when you add a bit more time in the mix. So let's say exactly the same numbers over 20 years. Now, inflation means that sort of the value of money goes down over time. So if you never ever actually added any money to that £200. Because £200 now is worth more than it will be in 10, 15 years time anyway. So if you never, even if your pay went up and inflation went up, you stuck to £200, this is what it would be. Realistically, you're more than likely going to increase your deposit amount each month just by the very nature of inflation, or as you get older, generally you tend to make more money. So let's see how it looks with 20 years. All other variables kept the same. We see quite a big jump there to 117,800, so nearly £120,000. And as you can see here, compound interest beginning to really show how it works over time. Deposit remains the same, interest remains the same, deposits remain the same, interest remains the same, but the balance you'll see over time really ramps up. It's starting to look a bit interesting. So for our final example then, I want to show you if you allowed your money to work for, let's say, 45 years. Let's say you're 20 years old and you intend on retiring at 65. Your goal is to have £1 million in the bank. Now, you're likely to have a house that's got some equity in it, potentially some other stuff, properties, or other assets, hopefully by the time you retire anyway, like a pension. But let's just say you put this money into a stocks and shares ISA, let's say, from age 20, let's say you're 20 now, until you're 65. What would that do over 45 years at 8%, £200 a month? And in 45 years, you're still putting 200, regardless of inflation. What would that look like? Let's have a look. You would be an ISA millionaire for 45 years worth. 45 years seems like a ridiculously long time. However, think about it. You're putting your money into your pension every single month. You don't think about that. You don't check that regularly. It's exactly the same thing. If you can just set up an automatic payment to do this, you'd be a millionaire alone just based on this account. And here you can see, obviously there's a lot of data over the 45 years, but you can see progressively, you got big jumps there of close to £100,000 worth of growth in the last couple of years. It really, really does show you, hopefully, how compound interest works. And as you can see from the graph, it exponentially grows as time moves on. So you get down to 10, 15, 20 years, and yes, it's going up and up and up. But once you get to 45, all the money that you're earning there is an interest. So the orange there is interest and the green is a deposit. So your interest is doing all the work for you. And this is why, hopefully, visually you can see, time is what you need when it comes to investing. I got a lot of motivation in the beginning of my investment journey from using this calculator. So I'd recommend jumping online and using the same calculator that I'll leave a link to in the description box below. But use real numbers from your situation to see how time and compound interest work together to make you wealthy. So there you go. Those are the 3 steps that I am using to become a millionaire, and I hope you got some food for thought from it. The concepts that I've talked about here are just universal. You need to be on a budget, you need to be debt free, and you need to be buying assets to grow your money over time. Please let me know in the comment section below where you are in your journey or what your strategy for becoming wealthy is. I'm always interested to know what you all are doing. So this video is more of a whistle-stop tour, and there's much more to talk about when it comes to personal finance. So if you want to continue watching content like this, please subscribe to my channel and like the video if you get any value from it.